It's looking like a good time for the Tyranid's troop section. First up, the mere termagants have incredibly hard-hitting guns, and now the warriors are looking like genuinely scary threats on the table, improved in just about every way. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking Tyranids, the new codex coming out in the not too distant future, and now we're starting to see a few more leaks in earnest from the packaging that comes out alongside the models. We don't know special rules or points cost yet, but it's still quite helpful for knowing how the units are going to function, the stat increases on their base profile, and far more dangerous weapons at both range and in melee. I think the warriors are a particularly handy one to know the datasheet for, as they've got really quite a lot of the common weapons within the Tyranid codex. Currently in Warhammer 40k, Tyranid warriors are 17 points per model, kind of meant to be the battle line of the Tyranid army, but to be honest, judging by the models, they are perhaps one that I'm surprised are quite as weedy as they are. They're a fairly chunky and threatening looking unit on the table, and I think while people were saying that the Termagant gun buff seemed a little excessive for what they're supposed to represent in lore, I think Tyranid warriors are certainly a unit that could be good for a tune-up, both in terms of gameplay and just representing the threat that they're supposed to pose. Currently at their very cheap points cost, they're generally great for farming out their synaptic link ability, giving one unit a very useful +1 to hit. They're okay for very cheap units to hold down objectives with OBSEC, and in theory you can put together squads of them that are tooled up to actually deal a bit of melee threat as well. They can work okay in conjunction with Tyranid primes and their synaptic link, but for the most part people seem to leave the damage dealing threat to other units in the codex, things like masked termagants with devourers, genestealer blobs, hive guard, or any manner of the big bugs in the crusher stampede. In any case though, it looks like they're going to be a fair bit more threatening as individual models on the table. Their stat lines received 3 key boosts, and also all their weapons basically got better. Starting out with the stat line, one rumour is confirmed that they are going indeed to strengthen Toughness 5 from strengthen Toughness 4, a lot bigger and more meaty on the table, bolters aren't going to chew through them quite as quickly, and any strength 8 or 9 firepower won't be wounding them on 2s anymore. Seems kind of fitting for them to be honest, a lot more in line with a lot of the other heavy infantry in 9th edition. Judging by the weapons, it means they're usually going to be hitting at somewhere between strength 5 or strength 7 with their attacks now. Quite a nice improvement on the base strength 4 that they could be before. Should really help them against Space Marines and other medium infantry. The other really nice improvement on their stat line is Ballistic Skill 3+, which went up from 4+. Previously they were better in combat than they were at shooting. Now they're just all-round competent at both, and I think Ballistic Skill 3+ is really quite a handy thing to have in 9th edition, with all these negative modifiers going round with things like dense cover. Also means that you might actually be able to justify advancing and shooting them a bit more. You don't lose quite as much of your damage output as you did previously. Finally, it does seem that they remain at a 4+ save. They aren't going to be jumping up to 3+, which is a change that I had suspected that they might have made. Does make me wonder whether they might get an invul save or any other special rules though. I believe that they tend to be unnaturally tough and somewhat protected by the hive mind. In any case though, that's a really good start before we even get onto the weapons, and we also have the profile for the Tyranid Prime here, essentially the HQ version of the warrior that's built from the same kit. He's got far less changes, he was already strengthened Toughness 5 before, but he is going to be getting a 2+ ballistic skill now, so again he's not worse at shooting compared with his warrior brothers. I'd be kind of surprised if the Tyranid Prime wasn't at least a little bit more efficient or useful than buffs in the new codex. Moving on though, we've got a whole ton of updated weapon profiles as well. All of the ranged ones will of course be a fair bit better just at base because they're hitting at 3s not 4s, and then basically every single one's got at least a small improvement, some of them getting big ones. The Barbed Strangler gets d6 shots at 36 inches, strength 6 AP-1 damage 1, so that's going to be an extra pip of strength there. Pretty handy against any Toughness 3 infantry or any orcs wandering around. A fair bit more meaningful against a lot of infantry targets. The Death Spitters gained a pip of AP, strength 5 AP-2 damage 1 and 3 shots. I have a feeling that the Barbed Strangler and Death Spitter might well be costing the same in the new book. They do seem really quite close. The Barbed Strangler's got extra range, strength and more shots on average, but jumping from AP-1 to AP-2 really is quite a big deal as well. The Venom Cannon goes from AP-2 to AP-3, perhaps not too dissimilar from the one that was previewed on the Hive Tyrants there. Still, damage 2 isn't in the best place at the moment for dealing with hard targets, with a lot of -1 damage effects about. Perhaps one of the biggest increases comes to the Devourer. This is going up to 5 shots, up from 3, and this would fit in with some previous rumours that we had about Devourers having different profiles on the Tyranid Warriors and the Termagants. I strongly suspect that they aren't going to give Termagants 5-shot guns like this, so I guess we'll still have to wait and see if they've reimagined the 3 shots that they get at standard now. Finally, the spine fists were kind of throwaway pistol shots, getting 3 shots at strength 3 on the old profile. They do appear to have lost a shot on this profile, but seem to be going up to a similar sort of profile as the gargoyle weapons at strength 5 and AP -1. I'm going to guess that they're still going to be a bit cheaper than the other guns. To be honest, from the profiles alone, we're not going to be able to tell which one of these is the most efficient. That'll have to be combined with the points costs and things. I feel like this is unlikely to be a negative thing though for shooty warriors. Just gaining the pivot ballistic skill will make the guns a lot more tempting, never mind all these slightly increased profiles. Finally, moving on to combat weapons, we basically have 3 different ones previewed here. Bone swords appear to be going to strength +2, AP -2 and damage 2, so that will be striking at a massive strength 7 now, which I must admit is basically a pretty hilarious upgrade on strength 4 and only damage 1. It did feel super underpowered for a weapon that's supposed to be actually really quite dangerous, but it's still funny jumping from strength 4, AP 2, damage 1 all the way up to strength 7 and damage 2. I wrote here that it's the same as the Genestealer Cult ones, but it actually isn't. It's kind of similar, but their Cult Bone Swords only get strength +1, not strength +2, so these ones are a little bit more powerful than that. And there's 2 profiles just the same here, one for double Bone Swords and one for Bone Sword and Lash Whip. I'd guess that the Twin Bone Swords will add extra attacks. If the Lash Whip works anywhere similar to the Genestealer Cult ones, then it'll allow you to re-roll hit rolls against anything that isn't a monster or vehicle. If they're priced the same, then that will probably make the Twin Bone Swords better, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. The Rending Claws for warriors are looking far more dangerous as well. They used to just be Strength User, AP -1 and the Rending Special rule, where you got extra AP on 6s. They're now Strength +1, so Strength 6, and a whopping AP -4, so they're going to be slicing through any armor with ease. I feel like what they're going for here is probably a big version of the Genestealer Rending Claws. Genestealers are almost certainly going to be getting Strength User AP -3 attacks on their base profile like the ones in the Cult Codex, so I'd imagine these as basically a bigger version of those, more AP and more strength because they're on bigger creatures. Will be interesting to see which one costs more out of those and Bone Swords. I feel like with strength 7 and damage 2 that's a lot better than the extra AP, if they do happen to cost similarly. Finally, we have Scything Talons, which I must admit did feel really quite blunt on the previous datasheet. Currently they give extra attacks, re-rolling hits of 1, but they're only Strength User and AP 0. Now at least they'll be a fair bit more of a threat to whatever they contact, and I'd be very surprised if they don't add a fair few extra attacks. One of the Tyranid rumours was mentioning that they might even double the model's attacks, which would be pretty crazy. If you just wanted to plough through a whole bunch of infantry, then they could be the one to go for. Overall, I'd say that's fairly exciting stuff. I've got no doubt that the Tyranid warriors will likely be going up in points cost to reflect their new abilities, though it does seem to me that that's a good thing overall. Bigger, more threatening models, and not feeling quite as weedy or underwhelming on the table. In any case, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What flavour of Tyranid warriors would you be most interested or apprehensive to see on the table? If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be keeping up with the Tyranid rules previews and leaks, and I'm very much looking forward to doing some videos and a review of the new codex when we get it. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description below. It is what allows me to keep on making all these videos quite so regularly, and channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.